as far as I remember, and maybe because I was 3 years old. No, 3, I don't know exactly how old I was, but anyway, I was sitting on the steps, and everybody was on the room, and they came out and tell me to come in, that my grandmother was going to die, and she was gone in heaven, and to go in with the family, and that their soul would go in heaven. So I went in, and I was amazed that everybody was crying, and this big deal of heaven, and I didn't understand why they were crying, and I was so involved to watch, because I want to catch the soul go up from the lady to heaven. And I keep looking and looking, and then I was furious because I never got to see it. I hear it do the last breath, and the priest and the blessings, but I never see it go to heaven. So that's a regret that I still all these days. I was very disappointed. And then I remember growing up, it was kind of very difficult because it was a system. There were 3 brothers. The older brother was the ruler. And then there was my uncle, Giovanni Barbettite, that he started going priest, and then he came back. And he never got married, and then was my father that he had 8 children. And it was difficult because I asked everybody if they want to have another child, and Gigi that used to cook said they were sick of babies, and that they didn't want me around. All the clothes were ripped, and there was no room for babies, and my mother was too old, and she stayed in the room a month because she wasn't supposed to have babies at that age. But then Era came, and we started growing up in very difficult. There was a system that Sunday the relatives came, and we were expected to sit and listen to them, but never open our mouths. So I wasn't very fond of relatives until I got older. I understood that was part of the system. And to make up for it, I talk a lot now because they kept me quiet then. But then it started the age that my sisters, my older sisters, and I didn't understand. Anita was the first one to get married, and they picked her house, but Barbejuan, that he was the leader, they picked her husband, and she didn't like her, and she was in love with somebody else. And one of the vivid memories was to see her dressed as a bride, go to church, beautiful, crying, I'm married because you forced me to, but I don't like him, I don't like him. And I turned around and told my mother that they will never do that to me. And my mother, which she didn't have the power, or my father, to contradict the brother, she said, I hope things will be changed when you grow older. And later on, it turned out to be proved. No, my father started a business in commercial, and he was doing very, very well. He was very, very successful, but the family thought it was undignified to have a meat business. And they made him stop it. He wanted to go with the family and to raise his kids, but the mother, which he adored, and everybody else dissuaded him. So they kept all the family there, which, although a big house, was complicated. 16 people in a family, it was just very difficult. No, my oldest sister, they didn't let her marry who she wants to. So she was for a long time doing the cooking for my uncle Monsignor. And later on in years, she married a totally inappropriate person. And that was a disaster there. But
which sister was this?
Santina.
Okay.
She married Gusto, which he wasn't permitted to come in the house. He came when we were there because they didn't have the nerve to say don't come. No, Nesta, they didn't let her marry who she wants to, and so she never got married either. And Gemma, Lina married a guy in Villaggio, a widow. Gemma was very, very shy, and Nesta used to play tricks with her. If somebody came in, Gemma disappeared. So Nesta would say, come here for a minute, I need you. And she would wait till she come at the door and then escape, so Gemma would be face to face with whoever was coming in. And she was ready to kill Nesta, but that was a big joke to the whole family. Now, because our uncle was the Monsignor of the region, we were not allowed to dance or to do anything or to date anybody. We were so restricted not to embarrass anybody, and because in those days, even if you do date, you always went with the chaperone.
Right.
So when I got a little older and things were changing, I met this captain of the Italian Air Force. And although the family can't approve, he wasn't chosen by the family, but they tolerate him, yes. But anyway, I want to get out of there because it was such a confining thing. You can do anything, go anywhere without permission.
How old were you then?
I was about 18.
Oh, okay.
But going back from there,
okay.
We got to go back to see, I told you.
Well, okay, so you started with the earliest memories. So you had some other stories.
Yeah, I got to go back there.
Okay.
At one time when I was about 6 or 7, in Villafreda was a castle, and the people came only during the summer.
Okay.
And the lady, which she was an angel to me, used to tell my mother she wanted me to go over play with her daughter because we were not rich like they were, but it was the oldest family.
Sure.
So we went to church, and the lady would tell my mother, this afternoon I'm going to send for Tecla, she can play with Angela.
Now this is your friend from the castle.
Angela.
Yeah.
My mother was furious. She said, you're not going over there. They going to put ideas in your mind. They are too rich and this is not your status and you shouldn't be. But then when the lady asked her, she could never say no. She just said, you're not going there, but she couldn't say no to her. She was a little intimidated. And probably she was right because I didn't realize, but it was influencing me a little bit because it was the two extremes of a lifestyle. And anyway, when grow up, we sometimes we raise.
Goodness.
Elizabeth got something to say.
She should. When we raise in our family silkworms and grapes, vineyards. The silkworms is, it was very intriguing because you had to feed them day and night to keep them always at the same temperature.
Right.
And we used to hire tremendous amount of people to help us. And we used to have an oven outside that hold 30 big loaves of bread. She made the oven every morning before we got up to feed these people. And it lasted 1 month. And then when we sold the silkworms, everybody got a big party. We went to sell them, we went to town, and that was a big celebration. Mm-hmm. And I loved that because I don't know, I enjoy being with the people, and there was a time that I could get to know other people besides the family. Yeah. And on winter time, during the wine festival, when we harvest the grapes, that was a big time for me because we did stomping the grapes in a big vat. The man was with the accordion, everybody was singing, it was big party. And my favorite time was when we got the corn husks. We would have a big piles of corn and everybody would come in and people would come in to help us. Each family helped each other and we would have chestnuts all over and singing. There was a lot of singing. And
so this was every season? Or?
Every season.
Okay, the wine festival.
Yeah.
What about the silkworms? Did you?
The silkworms in May. You got them at the beginning of May.
But as long as you can remember,
we had them.
You had silkworm, okay.
Always.
Okay.
Lot of it.
Okay.
That was one of the biggest incomes.
Okay.
We also had places that we gave sharecroppers or rented, but the biggest income was the silkworms.
Okay.
But anyway, In the winter time was also a pretty good favorite of mine because we didn't have heat.
Okay.
And we had the stables, and all the village would come in because we had the biggest stables, and the women were knitting and the men were talking, and I probably got my sex education there. My mother hated for me to go there, and she tried to keep me away, but that was my favorite time. They were telling storytelling. That was also one of my favorite times. Then Easter was another good time because Easter, the day after Easter, we went to the hill to roll the eggs, all the kids.
Oh, yeah.
And they gave us all a bottle of wine, so there was a bunch of drunk kids rolling the eggs that day. And that was a big time.
Yeah.
But, and then we had every Saturday the serenades. We were 6 sisters, and on Saturday, usually the boys in town would pay somebody to come play the accordion or singing or something. And we had one man that he fall asleep with the accordion. The boys would give him to drink, wake him up, and my father threatened to kill him several times because he would start playing 2 o'clock in the morning. And that was pretty difficult time for my father. But anyway, then I got older, and the boys in town, didn't get along so well. I made a mistake to say they would never marry a boy from the town. So that's where the war began against me. They were determined and nobody else will come see me. But then I met this guy, this captain of the Air Force, through Angela, I think. And he would come down with a plane every Sunday and flip the wings over the yard. Not every Sunday, he would come often. When he went someplace, he flipped the wings.
Right.
No, my uncle got very upset, and he wanted to write the government that they ought to do the maneuver some other place because the cows were stopping giving the milk because the plane was interfering with their production. And he was paying taxes, and the government ought to make provisions to the... he didn't realize, he was a little bit out of touch. He never connected that was the guy because they would not let them come in as a regular sweeter. I saw him once in a while, but anyway. But it was difficult because we had to work. I remember when I was probably 5 or 6. And when the storm came, we went to the field to pick up the wheat. We raised wheat, we raised all kinds of things. And we got up at night as the storm came, and we had to go down, and they told me, I was holding the horses. They said, if that horse moved, that man fall down and got killed. I remember holding the horses, praying and Mary's, so the man wouldn't fall down and kill himself. Too, when the storm came, the oldest member of the family, the maid, which was my uncle, would go on the balcony with the branch of olive, and spray with olive water the clouds to keep the storm away. That was a bit. Then another thing that was very funny to me is that the 24th of June is St. John Day. The night before, all the girls were coming my home because when they ring the bell, the night bell, you had to cross 7 doors and go in the front window, and there were the boys, and the first name of a boy that you heard would be the name of the guy you married. Well, it was always that redhead, that name every time I went in. I didn't realize there was a little maneuvering they was paying to call his name when I got there. But that was that. We had a lot of things that we had a lot of fun. I remember getting the chestnuts, big piles of chestnuts in a yard. And Nesta, although we were not permitted to go dancing, one night Nesta picked her shoes. She decided she was going down the road, there was a dancing, and she was going to dance. Well, it was so dark, she fell down on the chestnut, she got all the thorns all over. We brought it in, and everybody with 2 tweezers were taking them out. Meanwhile, it was the guy called, see what you do to disobey, you got what you deserve. And that was another bad problem because she got a not only the Torn, she got the Gospels, they were pretty heavy duty.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And then cause she was funny.
Oh, yeah.
Nesta was hysterical. My brother at that time went to Austria because the brothers of my mother a business, and they went out of business.
This is Medio.
Medio.
Yeah.
And my mother's brothers had brick factories in Austria. They went bankrupt, and my family bailed them out. So Medio went over there to take him over. And at that time, it was very difficult because they really risked the whole thing to save that particular aspect. And Matteo had no experience. He was 18 years old, but he made good. And for a while there, he was doing great. He had 3 factories. They had their own coal to run the factories. He was doing great. But then they made him honorary consul. And he gave up his business, and the things went backwards. And that's how he lost the business, because he lost interest on that one.
How old were you when that happened?
Well, that happened it started going down just at the point that I was getting married.
Okay, so that was a little bit later.
A little bit later.
Okay. Yeah, there's 2 stories that I remember that you tell about when you were pretty young. One was when they used to put you under the steps.
Oh, yeah, let's get that one.
Yeah, you got some early stories that I want.
Yeah, well, see, that's why I'm worried about this thing.
No, that's okay. We can jump around.
The costume was, we had under the steps, it was a very dark, with old shoes, smelly place, full of rats. You can hear them squeezing around all the time. But when you didn't want to do something, or you disobey, or you did something, case in point, I said stupid to my mother one time. And my brother, not only, he had the whip get me, but I got a little assignment under the steps. And you didn't eat there until you apologized profusely. And I wasn't too keen on apologizing. And you stay there without food, and you hear those little creatures moving back there, and the smell was outrageous. So Nesta, that she always tried to protect me. One day, she brought some sandwich, came at the door, and she got caught. So they put Nesta in and let me out. So Nesta finished my sentence. Another thing that happened with the Biasuti thing at the castle here, my mother, she felt a little sorry for me, poor thing. She didn't like me be friend with her, but they had a big party over there. There was a birthday, and she told the lady, she said, Tecla, don't never clothes to wear over there. She said, I'll take care of it. So my mother said, look, you can go, but if you handcuff you, the wife of the oldest son, you on your own. I was coming down the steps with my shoes in my hand, my heart beating in my throat. I was 17 then. And I came down, and she flipped the light. She said, Beck, nobody told you you can go.
Oh, geez.
So that was a scary thing.
Yeah.
Then it came the war. The war was a bad part too. Yeah. The war was that we had a lot of underground people, partisans. And my brother was in Austria, and any time that somebody got killed, shot by the Germans, they would come through town. You had to have at the door the name and the age of everybody that lived there. And they came in, and they pick up all the young people, and took them in prison. And my mother said, oh, you go down, tell your brothers in Austria, poor people, this time they pick up an enormous amount of people. Yeah. I said, my mother was old, she didn't realize it was dangerous. She said, you go down there and tell them, try to tell them that they didn't do anything, and she didn't realize. And I went down there, and there was Muller, I will never forget. And I went in and I told him, look, they pick up all these people.
This was one of the Nazi officers?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he was nice.
Okay.
I said, they pick up all these people, and I say, please try to help them. I said, some they are sick, they are And he said, well, I tell you what, I can make a deal with you. He says, we having a big party, the officers in Pordenone. You get all your girlfriends and come to the party. We send a camion to get you. And I said, if you have a sister, would you let her go? He said, we don't talking about sisters. And he understood little Italian. He said, we talking about you and the people. I said, I don't think I can get away from my home tonight. I don't think I can. And because it was dangerous more than way in one, because. So I came home, and next day we find out that the place was bombarded, but it got bombarded that night. Everybody got killed. Now Mueller didn't go, which later on I went to see his process too, and he remembered me. He was helping actually people, and in fact, during the war one night, because I went down there that day, the partisans, and I saw them with the bicycles.
These were the rebel Italians that kind of fled up into the hills.
They started thinking, the guys in Villaggio, because they had it with me, I didn't want to marry, they said that I was a spy. So there was a Sunday afternoon, I was in a door, and this kid came in and said that Angela, the girl, the Castello, was waiting for me, but she had the dog, she had the Doberman, and he didn't like our dog. So I went out, and they were there on the ground with the gun, and they said, keep walking, you're spying for the Germans.
The partisans did this.
So they made me walk across the river, and they took me in this place that there was a halo, and there were 3 girls already with their head shaved, and they say, you're going to be next. Actually, before I went, they said, too bad you don't have a scarf with you. I said, that's okay. I knew, I was sure they're going to shave my head. That's what they did.
You don't have a scarf with you?
Scarf.
Oh, okay, okay.
I said, go ahead. So I was there, and they say, you're the next one. And that was a dishonor. You were a spy.
When they shaved your head, that meant that you were a spy. Okay.
And there were 3 girls there, and they say, oh, good, we got a DiMaria here, too. And this guy, Roquette, that restaurant, he came in and he said, you better be careful. She knows the people of the castle.
Okay, okay.
He says, you better be careful what you're doing here. I said, go ahead, do it. I was so brazen and mad, and I knew the red-haired guy was behind it, the one. So they say, you can go, but be careful because you can get it.
The red-headed guy who you heard through, okay.
The one to marry her.
Right, the one who wanted to marry you.
Oh, yeah, he was with the priest too. So I went back, and they shook me a little bit. And then meanwhile, Angela, she sent over, and she said, Tecla, next house to Angela was a villa. And this guy came in, and it turned out to be was the godfather of Mussolini's children, son, Bruno. And he escaped because Mussolini thought that he had all kinds of army over there. And this guy told him, he said, you think we have all these tanks? During the night, they bring them from city to city. They have the same tanks.
Right.
When Mussolini got mad at him. So he had to escape, and he came next door to Angela. Well, Angela had a crush on his son.
Okay.
So Angela said, come over. I went over there one day, and she said, we got to burn all the pictures of Mussolini with the christening. And we were by the fireplace burning. Her parents didn't know. There was a thing underneath that you go from the castle to this place.
Secret passage.
Secret passage. So we were burning up everything. We looked home. It was a knock on the door. It was the underground.
Oh, jeez.
I said, God, they're going to kill us. So they came in, and they said, what are you doing here? They said, oh, nothing, we burn love letters or something. But they were scared of her. They would never kill me in a minute, but they were scared of her family.
Right.
Because
they were powerful.
She owned 3 towns there. She owned the town, everybody in it. All the parents worked for her. Well, anyway, I came home pretty shook up. But then, one night, and you can ask Lena this, I went to the city, and there was bombs through the tram. We took a little tram. And Lena got a letter. They say, you better be careful. They're waiting to kill your sister. You came from Molini's, where the pines.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you tell your sister to stay away. They're going to kill her. And when I came
Referring
home,
to you.
Me.
Yeah.
Well, that night I didn't come home.
Right.
They were going to hide in the pines and kill me.
Oh, jeez.
So that night I didn't come home. Then the war got out. And the Marquis, the Angela people said, if they touch Tecla, it's like they touching me. It's going to be, that's why she saved my life. Well, anyway, we went through the war, and we didn't know nothing what happened to my brother in Austria. Nesta was in Austria, and from the top of our balcony, we used to smell horses. The Germans had a lot of horses. They had the Cossacks, which in Nimes, where my uncle was, they killed, oh, this is sad. See, this is so. From my home, one day they went to get a doctor, same thing. They say he was a fascist. This was the underground. He had 8 kids. He came right by our home, crossed the river, and they killed him. And his kids, after the war, they find who killed him, and they hang him in Nimes. But before this happened, when Nimes, they killed some big German guys, so they gave him 24 hours to clear the city. My uncle was, they got house by house, and they all came through a bridge in Molinis. And my uncle was with the wheelbarrow, and the statistic who's born and who's died was the last one on the line. They put the young people on one side, the other people the other one. The young people got taken in Germany on those, the beautiful light, in those trains.
Okay.
All the young people took in Germany.
Oh, okay.
And the old people, that night my room was full of people crying and crying. And that's when my uncle came over to the priest house. We went up to where the Balotari and the old town was in flames. Mm. And they promised that town to the Cossacks.
Okay.
So they took my uncle in prison because they say he knew where the young people were.
Right.
And they threatened, they took him out, they said they're going to shoot them unless he gives the names. And they kept them there until one day the English came and they liberated them, and the bishop, and the bells were not ringing all that time. Mm-hmm. The day they liberated him, as he was coming with the cortege, all the bells in the town started ringing.
Oh, wow.
And when he got, but then the zone was liberated. We go back to the rest in a minute. And the people, they were on the ground, they came to greet them on the square in Tercento.
Oh, wow.
That he said, you kill me, but did I show you the medal? Did I show you? I'm going to show you the medal.
Yeah, I think you may have. But
yeah, he's holding like this, and he has the Germans with the gun on him.
Oh,
and he knew where all those guys were.
Right.
All the guys, they were in the door, he knew where they were.
How old were you when that happened?
Was about 18,
okay.
17, 18.
So most of this stuff was happening just before you met Granddad?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not only that, but they, what was it, at that time, from the balcony, we keep smelling only horses.
Right.
See, the Russians had their families with them. One day, Nesta and I were coming up the river,
mm-hmm.
you know, from Molinis.
Right, the Cossacks.
The Cossacks. And we were coming up, and we heard guns, and somebody told us, run, run, run. They were the partisans on the pines.
Oh, okay.
And we come up, and they kill a Cossack right in front of us.
Oh, wow.
And he was reaching like this. We had to step over him. We couldn't stop. We had to run because the Germans, hear the shooting and they start chasing those ones.
Right.
And at the same day, we saw in the afternoon a car coming in, a truck with all these young Italians, white as sheets. They took him up on the pines, and we heard the shots, and at night we went up, and we carried them on the cemetery, and next day the people came to identify, they called the partisans. Yeah. And they came, the mothers came screaming. We had a little chapel, you know, in the cemetery. Mm-hmm. But this was all the war. But the thing that happened is when we start smelling all the manure, one day we started smelling gasoline. Right. And each day it got stronger. We had one radio hide in the hidden room. We used to hide people in the hidden room.
Right, yeah, I want you to talk about that.
We had a hidden room. There was two walls. In the middle was empty. And we hide there the radio, salami, and some stuff there. And sometimes people in the front window, when they see the German horses, they would whistle 2 times. So they would sit in above, they would go in, and we put the corn, and they would come right on top, and they would say, we know in this house is a hidden place. If they find it, we will all been killed, but they never find it. And when the war ended, we took the radio and put it on the front window, and that's how we hear the Americans coming. But this was, there was so much going on.
There were several times where you almost got caught with that room, right?
Oh my gosh. They came up and we had a big trunk and in a hall, and he said, what's in there? I said, dirty clothes. He said, this is no time to be funny. I was trying to delay because they didn't cover, you know, enough.
Right.
But anyway, everybody knew we had, and the bad thing happened, I had my bicycle there, they had door. And Nesta wanted to ride the bicycle in Tarcento. I said, no, they're going to steal it. This Cossacks stole everything. Mm-hmm. She went up and they shooting, took my bicycle. Mm-hmm. But anyway, when we heard the gasoline, and there's so many stories there that we go back and forth.
That's okay.
When we saw the gasoline, a little kid came in and said, we didn't hear from Nesta or Madio, and they had a lot of people from Italy working in Austria. Mm-hmm. So he came in and said, your sister's coming down. Madio Catarossi was a prisoner, and Madio got dressed with the uniform of a friend as a SS, and pick up Catarossi, save his life, and put him on his haddock in Austria. And somebody spy on him, and they pick him up to shoot him. But there was a big bombing, and that he escaped and he got saved. Okay.
So Medea was sort of acting like a hero, and it was lucky that the wherever he was going to was getting bombed.
Yeah, and the thing it is, not only that, but then as a reconnaissance, he was the liaison for the English to hire people to reconstruct Austria, and at one point he donated a lot of bricks to rebuild Austria, and they came together with the band, and that's when they made him consul there.
Okay.
But anyway, go back on that thing, and they came to tell us that my sister was coming down with 2 horses. No, let's go back to the end of the war. The end of the war, there was so much bombing and rumors and people that it was a coprifuoco, nobody could move from their homes. In 2 days, you heard a lot of shooting. When we got out after 2 days, we went on the road to Austria, the main road, and there were dead people all over, horses everywhere, our whole family burned in a car. And people were chopping horse meat because nobody eat for so long. And in that time, they come down telling us, then my sister was coming down. She left.
She's coming back from Austria.
From Austria.
Yeah.
She got back. The Germans were gone back. The Americans were patrolling this car. So she got turned back with the Germans. She said, I'm going. So they find the Italian flag back in the line to come in Italy, and the Germans in those little roads. Well, anyway, she got turned back 2-3 times with all the people from Villaggio. Okay. They finally made it in Tarcento with those 2 cars. But I So when I was there, Nesta came and Catarossi came, everybody was, and I was sitting on the step crying because, well, just before they came, we didn't know what happened to them. They said they're coming, but there was so much, and the kids don't pick up flowers. They said the Americans coming. So I say, oh, I wonder what happened to them. I was there, and that red guy say, are you crying because the Germans lost? And I was so mad. Well, finally, the kids went out and all yelling, the Americans coming. And for the first time in my life, I saw a black person.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was fascinated. I never saw a black person in all my life. So I was fascinated. You can deduct that one. But meanwhile, getting up in a bed, growing up, when somebody got sick, my mother, if it was somebody that lived alone, my mother wanted for us to help. And one night we were taking care of a lady that she was dying, and we were wetting her lips with wine to keep her. And this guy came in, he said he didn't need her, I need her worse than she does, so he did it. But there were so many of these little stories, you know, that go on in those days. But then that part we probably go back because it comes occasionally.
Sure.
But the war came and the Germans came and, no, the Americans came. Angela's house was occupied by the Germans. They used to ride their horses across the entrance. So when the Americans came, they came and Angela was always very faithful. They had 2 rooms there that 2 rooms, 3, 4 rooms, that they were not taken away from them. And at the end of the war, they invited her to another castle for a celebration. The Americans came, and Granddaddy wasn't there yet, so her mother asked my mother to go, and my mother, you're not going, no, but then she let me go. Anyway, we went up and we had this captain that speak Italian escorting us. And in this castle, which is still there, they didn't fix it, it was a stairway and there were 2 generals at the end. Angela was the honored guest because so she was very shy. She said, Tecla, you get in. I said, Captain, how you say, how do you do? He said, my aching bag. So I went in and I said, my aching bag to the first general, and everybody started laughing. Hello? Hey. I went to the next general, I said my aching bag, and the flags up the stairs started going like this, and those people were trying not to laugh. And I turned around and said, Captain, something wrong? He said, oh no, it's the end of the war, don't worry about it, they're all funny. I said, I'm not going to say one word anymore. So I never knew why we ended up on a general's table. And we were so popular. And next day I had a little horse and buggy that I went to do my business. I went to buy stuff and bring food to the farms, to the people in the farms. And those jeeps went by, they say, hey, Blondie, my head is there.
Oh, jeez.
And then in the tower of the castle that night, everybody was shooting. And somebody gave me a gun and I keep shooting with the rest of them. That was celebrated. I didn't know. And it was live ammunition. And then they taught me how to disarm little bombs, because a lot of kids got damaged with bombs. So they taught us to pull the thing with the teeth and through it. So I was an expert on disarming bombs all over the place. We call them vanilla bombs, the little bombs. But you know, it's when I was little, I had to go every Saturday from 8 to 12 marching, dressed like Mussolini girls, the white blouse, the black skirt. And if you didn't go, you really got in big trouble. Later on, when I got my citizenship, when I was coming in this country, they questioned why I was a fascist. I said, if you were 10 years old and you're not a fascist, you can even go in the street. You had to be, or you were on the suspicious. But anyway, that was before. Then when they moved the people of the Maekin bag, Angela said, we get the new officers in a castle. And I went over there, and she said, we're having my birthday, and my mother's going to invite the 2 officers. So I went in, and I saw Granddaddy. I told Angela, I said, oh, he's cute. And she said, yeah, but he doesn't have many hair. He's bald head. I said, I don't care. He's cute. And that night, he turned to the other officer. He said, I'm leaving this country with that girl. And he said, you crazy. You didn't even meet her yet. I thought he was preconceived because I was engaged to the captain of the plane. He said, no, you see, I was so mad when I found out the whole story, but it was too late. I was getting married. I thought, what a ego. Who he think he is? And at that time, I got a big fight with him because Doris Duke came to visit the troops. And he was escorting her, and he saw me, but he didn't even wink or say hello. And I won't speak to him. I said, who? He said, you don't know who she is. I said, I don't care who she is. At least you could say hello. He says, but anyway, they were all incidents that happened to that particular time.
Right.
But, well, that's as far as I can go. As far as that, well, then we want to get married, and that was fine. My boyfriend told me he'd kill me if I marry anybody else. I lost quite a bit of weight.
Now
and
this is the one that this is the ghost
there,
story.
right. No, this.
Okay. That's a different story. There's a ghost story you tell. I guess that was a previous.
Oh, that was one before. That he was a Navy guy.
Okay.
And he said that he was, and I didn't like him either, my family, but anyway, poor guy. And he was in the Navy, and one night.
There you go.
And you know, you can't adjust, you gotta marry whoever they tell you marry. And although things were changed, I wasn't really in love with anybody in particular. So, and over there, the girls were a problem because, you know, I don't know, there were so few men, and they said, if you're not married by 2021, forget it. Or, I wasn't particularly in love till I met Granddaddy, to be honest with you. But this guy was a Navy guy, was the son of some friends from Udine. And he was on a ship. And one night, he came in and he said he was full of water. And I know I was weak. And he kept brushing water. He said, go sleep, sleep. He says, sleep. So I got up next day, I went to see his mother. And she already had candles in his room. And she said, he died last night. She said, he came by here last night. I know he died last night. I said, what time is it? And it was around the time that he came to see me. She never got out. She dressed in black. He was the only son. He had a sister, which I knew. But he came. I know he came. And it was as clear in my mind. Because I got up and went down there, and she was crying. She said, he died, you know he died. And that confirmed it, because the first thing I did after I looked at the clock, and that was, no.
And you hadn't heard officially that?
No, only afterwards a guy came by and he says that they were both thrown out the boat together, and they promised each other, whoever survived will come to notify the family. Yeah. And he came to tell us that it did happen that night.
Oh, jeez.
So that was very spooky. But to tell you about things, we had this girl working for us. Her husband is the one that played the accordion. And they were very, very poor. And my mother, she had to go to the doctor. My mother said, come down, because she wasn't very clean. I want to give you a slip to go. She said, no, I don't want a slip. She said, well, I want you to have a clean slip. She said, do you have a slip on you? My mother said, yes. She said, so do I. They've been washed for a few months, but that's So one day she got home. We had three little houses that we rented, little houses. So somebody came in to call my mother that the furniture was coming out the window and everything. And it was Tony, the guy with the accordion. Please take me in. No, look for the furniture down. It kept coming down, all his clothes and everything. Finally, the wheelbarrow come down and he had to go with it. My mother was the peacemaker. She was the most incredible person. I saw her cry once in my life, and she had the strength that was incredible, because when they forbid my father to go in business, he lost interest on everything. He supervised the farm, and he did what he could. And because we all had to work at the farm on harvest, I used to go, when things, you had to pinch in and go work with everybody. And that's why my kids would never understand. We had to get up at 5 o'clock and go. Usually I brought breakfast to the people, but we had to help everything that we could, because during the war, particularly the men were at war, we had to work like dogs. We were farmers. We were, you know, middle class, which is almost non-existent in Italy. But we were not rich. Then my brother, of course, with the factories, he did good. But basically, we were patriarchal. That's the name of my family. Do you know what patriarch is? A middle class
father figure. And
yeah, that's it. Patriarchal. My uncle was the father figure, kind of like the King of England. No matter how rotten he is, he's the oldest one. He's the one he rules. Except that my uncle was weak and his wife was the big bee. Excuse me, delete that. But
no, what did you say?
The big bee.
Oh, the big bee.
And she's the one, she arranged my sister's wedding. It was funny when I thought so too. And the weirdest thing was that when somebody died, you take him in a living room and you had to stay up all night to watch him and pray. That's the wake. And I was little as him, and I see the movie. I always see the movie in my imagination.
Yeah.
And I remember a cousin came in and she would say, Requiem aeternam Donis Domine. How's your cousin? Hey, wonderful. Requiem aeternam Donis Domine. How's your sister? Is she all right? That prayer went on and on and on. It was unbelievable. And in the spring, another fun part was that you went to bless all the fields. You went in a procession at 5 o'clock in the morning, all through those places to bless the fields, and I enjoyed that part. But I don't know what I covered here, but there's a lot of missing things.
Oh, that's okay. We'll pick them all up. There's a couple of them that I remember that you tell.
Tell me, because
there's the one about your first day at school.
Oh yeah, whoa, God. I was first at school, full of complex. The kids, the redhead, they persecuted me through life. And I came home crying. And I said, I'm not going back to school alone. And Esther said, I'll take care of it. And I'll tell you something else she did too. So she came over the next day, everybody was in class. And she said, open the door. I opened the door, she gave me a big push. I turned around, the door was closed, the class was laughing, and I was in the floor. And that was the last time I ever had somebody to take me there. But one night, she told me to go get my uncle. No, my other sister said, go up, get Matteo shoes in that room way up there. And we don't have lights, so to speak. There were lights, but way up there. And I went up, it was dark. And I see this thing go like this white thing. To this day, I'm still scared to go there. It was Nesta with a sheep. And I came down, I tell you, came down, I nearly had a stroke. and that was her with the sheets up. But the thing she did, she was so bad. We had some Germans come down from Austria, and they knew Italian. And she told the girls, we always had people helping there, and they had a big dinners. So Matteo said, this is special, people from Clanford that he had business, we had to have a dinner. She told the girls, listen, she said, they are good looking guys. And you can say anything you want to because they don't speak a word of English. So this girl, they said, hey, that's cute. No, I don't like why. They comment about this guy straight through the dinner.
Oh, geez.
And when they finished, the guy got up, he said, thank you very much, Wilson, enjoy the comments. Next, I had to run down the yard because they would have a killer.
Yeah.
And then she had this guy, he says, she has this guy, he said that he can tell what kind of food, no matter what it is, that he's a connoisseur. And we made polenta, and the polenta is crossed in the bottom. When Nesta pick up the crust, cut it in cute little shapes, put flour on it with little sugar, and she said, I want you to tell me what this is. And the guy, he says, very good, it's strange, it's different, we wash all the dishes in that pan.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, she was, what did she do? She did so many things. There was another good one that she did. Oh, they come slow, but we used to have more fun about stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
We were not allowed to have the lights on, so my bed was with the street light, and I did the reading with the street light. And although we had the few people that had the radio, we couldn't listen anything except the news. And we were the first people to get water in the house. Okay. Everybody went in a square, which I was very upset because the best gossip was in a square cleaning what you call it, the copper pots. Everybody went there to clean the copper pots on the square. Okay. But no, the priest would come down on weekdays. We used to go catch the frogs. You went down by the lake and all the frogs would come out, and you went down with oil lamps and they got stoned, and then you went in with the nets and pick it up. Okay. And next morning you got a fried frog legs, and the priest would come over every day to get a fried frog legs. But the best day of the year was they killed the pig, but I couldn't stand to see him killed, so I got up very early in the morning, went behind the river, so the water won't let me listen the pig screaming. Then it was fun, but that screaming I had to go at the river for that one. Yeah. And then, what was it? What is the other? Oh, there's so many of those little stories that happened in those days. Yeah. Oh, that lady that didn't have any money, she decided she needs money. So everybody would go next to town to bring the milk with pots. All the young people, kids would go down. Well, you had to pass the cemetery to go to Fry Lake or go down there. So one night the kids went down and they saw this black thing coming down to the cemetery. They all grabbed the pots and left, run home. Well, nobody knew what it was. 1 week later, they went in Udine and they saw all the pots and pans on sale. She picked up all the And one night, it was a bad storm. She worked for us for years. We never knew where she came from. She and the guy that played the accordion. And we had to go down the field late at night because there was a big storm coming and we need to bring the wheat in. So we go down by the cemetery. She said, wait a minute, you wait here by the door. She went in, she said, started yelling at her mother, you left me here. You should have, you didn't do this. To the graves. I tell you, I was so petrified. Well, then I got a little crush on this guy. I don't know why. I say, oh, you don't pay no attention to me. Oh, this is a good story. Yeah. The gypsies were coming.
Yeah, the gypsy story,
the gypsy story.
Right.
Well, the gypsies came occasionally, and I got to be very friendly with one of the gypsies. She was beautiful, and a guy in town really would have married her. She was stunning. But when the gypsies find out, we never saw her again. But anyway, I got friendly with her. I used to meet her at the bridge. I bought her little clothes that I could. And she said, well, you know, she said, I like that guy in town. And she says, I said, well, no, I have somebody I like. She said, well, my hand can fix you up. But her hand wanted me to give her money and meet her at the front of the cemetery at midnight. I could do that. But anyway, she said, I want you to meet my cousin. He's good looking. Well, I said, okay. He came in and he had his lice coming down on the sides of his curly hair in the sideburns. he was good looking, but my God. She said, well, I married the one in town and you married my cousin. So I'm not on a wagon over traveling. I came in America instead. But you know, when the people find that that guy was serious, we never saw her again. And you know what? I was so attached to her that I was looking up for her. She didn't want to be a gypsy.
Oh, really?
Actually, I asked her if it's true they were stealing kids. She said no. It's just the people, we steal chickens. But not kids.
Yeah.
She said the people don't like us and they put the rumors to
Right,
steal
that's
kids.
right, yeah.
But we steal only chickens.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
But there were a lot of kids, and I
There's
don't
a
know.
story you told about, what was it? I guess Granddaddy was giving out candy,
Oh yeah,
and there was one lady who,
yeah. My granddaddy at Giorgio, which is best friend, that he gave us a lot of toilet paper for wedding gift, which was good because there were only leaves available over there. But every Sunday, all the kids that went to church, Granddaddy and the other officer and Giorgio would wait outside and get them candy. And at Christmas, he got a big party for the kids of Villaggio at the castle. And he had a spike punch, a plain punch too. I don't know if I tell you that, but anyway, and Gigi got a little bit of the spike punch that time, but that's another story. They were so little, briefly, they went in with the kids, then they would go back in line until they finally got caught up. They went back 2-3 times to get the candy. But Granddaddy came over, Gigi was peeling the chestnuts for him. Because, oh, she loved Granddaddy. She was peeling the chestnuts, so Granddaddy said, you want a cigarette? She said, yes. So she put the cigarette in her mouth, and Georgia said, you want another cigarette? She said, yes. She put another one, because she had a little nipping before.
Yeah.
She had 2 cigarettes. And they took the picture of it. But at that party, they keep going back in line. They were so short, and they go, and Georgia said, oh, you were here before, what is I got the picture in some place there. I'll show it to you,
yeah.
the picture of those kids. And that, they love Granddaddy. Giorgio had a packet full of Kleenex. Every kid that was over there had runny noses. We didn't have stuff like that. So he used to clean them with one side, put the dirt in the other. He always had the full of. But then they came over with aspirin. And Granddaddy, we had a kid that only said was growing. And he called the big officers. Actually, that guy was I didn't know he was Jewish. He was our best man, but who went to check? Nobody told him. And he went and he gave him medicine, but he had something that only said was growing. There was some consequence during the war. But that's part, Sedilis, oh, we gotta get Sedilis. Poor Granddaddy had, no, let me tell the one day Austria. And one time after I met Granddaddy, we were dating. Next I want to go back in Austria. She had a lot of friends, but you can go back there because they were the English and the Russians controlling the place. So she said to me, but I'm going to speak to Granddaddy. She said, take me to Tarvisio. I'll take you in this hotel. She knew the whole thing. And you look across, when you see somebody with a scarf in the pocket, go back home. I'm already over there.
Goodness.
She had the friends in a farm there. And she knew when the guards were changing, those people helped her go back. She went back and forth all the time. Nobody could. Everybody got shot, but she went back and forth. But that time, Granddaddy took us there, and I was watching. He said, what are you watching over there? I said, I'm watching next house. He says, she's supposed to be back. So I saw her go over, and she had the scarf and the bucket, and they were changing the guards because there was the farm here, and they were making the cheese on the other side. And they had the permission to go back and forth. But they were changing the guards all the time, so they would let them know when they were the new group coming. And they didn't know the people, the guards. So I told Granddaddy, we go back. He said, where's Nesta? I said, well, she went over in Addison. Did you know that I can get court-martialed? I'm helping people cross the border illegally. He was so mad with me that he could kill me. And then it happened that...
And that's at Sedilis.
Sedilis. Sedilis was, we were getting married. I didn't know how many people was coming. I didn't know anything. Sedilis was the center of the moonshine.
Okay.
So the state, two little kids came down the day of the wedding with 25 liters of moonshine. They say that his father don't have money for a present, but he thought that we'll let for the reception. Well, the Americans came in, they never eat grappa.
Oh, jeez.
And they were dancing with the Italians, Viva la Company. My mother said 2 days later, they were coming out, 3 days later, from the hayloft. They didn't know what hit them. The colonel said he lost half of his battalion somewhere. He couldn't get it. Everybody found out the grappa, and they were the band, all the MPs, they came to the wedding because Granddaddy was commander. And these trucks came in, stop outside, and my mother said, what we gonna do with all those people? We had 40 cakes. People didn't have money to buy, so they sent cakes for presents. And Giorgio brought a lot of cakes. But anyway, these people started drinking. When we left, they were all dancing, and we got in the hotel, no papers. Nobody would let us in. They stole Granddaddy's papers.
Oh, no.
And my clothes, they were all in teeny notes. And we couldn't go anywhere. The chauffeur already left. Well, finally, one of his friends said, well, look, take my room. We were leaving for Capri. And he said, I can go nowhere until I get the papers. The colonel took his papers as a joke.
Oh.
But next morning, they came down, his chauffeur came down, and he had the papers so we could go. But they gave us a bottle of grappa to put because you couldn't find food on a train. So we had a bottle of grappa in a suitcase. And when we were in a train, that thing exploded.
Oh, no.
My clothes.
Oh, no.
Everywhere I went, people would go. I had everything polluted. It took weeks to wash out the smell of the grappa. It's so strong that you can't. It's poison. But all those soldiers were all drunk on a loaf, all sleeping all over.
Oh, jeez.
And the colonel sent Giorgio down. He said, see where my troops are. There's nobody there. But the funny thing was, the Granddaddy was visiting me. And they had to bring some moonshine from Sedilis to Zompita because they were going to pick it up, some big guy. And they couldn't do it by car. And Giorgio, feeling no pain, he said, oh, I can get Lieutenant Smith, io fare. He took his chauffeur, went up, and put, I don't know how many liters of grappa, and drove him to Zompita.
Oh, no.
Without Granddaddy know.
Oh.
When Granddaddy found out, he told Georgia that he's going to transfer him, that he want nothing to do.
Oh, jeez.
But poor Granddaddy, he said they don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But that was the adventures of but there's so many of it. And
Yeah.
that's why I hate to, but there's a beginning.
Yeah. Well,
we need to edit it at times.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I just wanted to get some of them down now, and we can work on it more.
Yeah, I gotta tell you the story of Monsignor. They made a book this big, but not now.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think I'll make up.
Great job.
I don't know.